of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest through the preservation and enhancement of local historic, architectural, archaeological, and aesthetic heritage found in the city through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic districts and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. I'd like to, first of all, say to our guests, if you come to the microphone, to speak directly into the mic so that the mic can pick it up for recording purposes as well as our television audience. And I'd like to start this afternoon by asking our commissioners to introduce themselves, and I'll start from my right and the audience left.
Dallas Hanbury.
Carol King.
Kamala Broadnax.
James Long.
Brian Mann.
And I'm Richard Bailey, and I have the distinct honor of serving as the chairperson of this august body. I'd like to say to our other commissioners, you have included in your packet the minutes of the December 8th meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion for the adoption of those minutes.
I move we accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any unreadiness? All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the December 2020 minutes as written, please let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you very much. The first item on our agenda for this afternoon is the election of chair and vice chair. And we will start that process by asking, is there any nomination for our vice chair?
I nominate Carol King.
All right, Ms. Carol King, our current vice chair, has been nominated. Is there any other nomination? Is there any other nomination? Twice. Is there any other nomination? 3 times. All those in favor of Ms. Carol King serving another term as our vice chair, please let it be known by a show of hands. Okay. Ms. Carol King has been re-elected as our vice chair. The House, or the chair will now entertain a motion for the nomination, not a motion, but chair will now entertain a motion, nomination for our chair. Nomination for our chair.
I nominate Dr. Richard Bailey.
Okay, Dr. Richard Bailey's been nominated. Any other nomination? Any other nomination? Any other nomination? All those in favor of Dr. Richard Bailey serving as our chair, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Moving right along, our committees, Preservation Leadership Class Workshop. Christy, do you have anything on that?
Oh, yes. Registration is open.
Excuse me just 1 minute, Christy. Carol, would you like to make a statement regarding your renomination? I'm sorry.
No, it's definitely an honor to be in this spot and to serve this committee, so thank you very much.
Okay, all right, and same here. And before we begin our proceedings this afternoon, Christy, I'd like to invoke the prerogatives of the chair, because in today's newspaper, on the front page, one of our members was quoted in a very, very significant way regarding what he does at his work. And I would just like to ask Dr. Dallas Hansberry if he would take 3 minutes for anything he would like to add to what was said in today's Montgomery Advertiser.
Well, who hasn't seen the article?
Is anybody who has not seen it?
So,
One person.
probate court judge J.C. Love decided that we needed to have something for Black History Month, which I agreed with. So what we decided to do was shoot 4 videos on records in the archives pertaining to African American history. And that's what we did. And a lot of these records are just basic legal records like estates, marriages, things like that, because in my work, I noticed that a lot of researchers, particularly those researching slavery and African American genealogy, had no knowledge of these records and the information they contained, or did not know that they could use them in a way that would benefit their research. And so we focused on that, and we've gotten a lot of positive press from it. So,
Very good.
any questions?
So your phone's been ringing.
No, but we've gotten a lot of media inquiries.
okay, gotcha.
So, you'll see us doing the WSFA, Alabama News Network circuit in the next few days.
Surely.
Is that what you talked about online, part of your online addressing all that, your research that you have online, what you were talking about today?
Well,
the
yeah.
program.
So, what we've been focusing on at the archives now for the last number of years is using local records really to understand what does slavery look like and to help people locate their enslaved ancestors in the historical record. And so the Black History Month program was really a continuation of that, because these records are really, really useful, and they're not being used enough. People don't understand that things like wills and estates are basic legal records across the country, and that they don't have to go to the state archives or to Alabama or Auburn to a university archive. They can go to their county seat and begin that process.
And probably get an awful lot.
If you want to know what slavery looks like in a community, go look at the estate files and the wills.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What is the cost per page for making copies?
We charge 25 cents a page.
25 cents a page. And now is that 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 and by 14?
Whatever it takes to get it on the page, Dr. Bill.
Okay, sure. So legal size or regular
Yeah,
size?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not expensive?
No, I don't think so.
Sure. Okay. All right. Any question anybody like to raise or?
Those were pictures from the Montgomery Boys Barcode,
Yes, they
the
are.
arrest photos that were in their paper.
Yep.
That was really good. I remember when we went over there and you showed us some of those pictures. It's good to have that history.
So, and tell your friends, so the Getty, does anybody not know what the Getty is? When you watch a show or you look at a newspaper or whatever, a lot of times the photo credit says the Getty. Okay, so they have the Rosa Parks mugshot too. They don't claim ownership to it, but they charge $10,000 a use.
Huh?
We have the original and we charge $10, so spread the word.
Okay. Good enough. I'm sorry, Christy? Historic Preservation Leadership Class?
Yes. Y'all have a brochure. We tweaked the course offering this year based on the feedback we got through the surveys last time, and Carol Collier-Neely and I have been moving this along. Registration is open and will be open until March 12th. We don't really have a committee right now. I expect that Carol will be at most of those since we're doing it at Old Alabama Town this year. But I would like to ask that each of you pick a date to come and help us sign people in, sit in the class. I'm not the HPC, so I should not be the face of the HPC. But, look at those dates, and to that end, I would suggest that we not have a meeting in April, because we will be doing this every Wednesday in April, and if you come to one of those other meetings, that will just count as your attendance for the month.
My only thoughts on that, do we vote on the awards, which will be given in May?
I have a recommendation that we kick that
Okay.
can down the road, because we are not going to be able to assemble people in this auditorium in May. I think we should.
Oh, I see
I
what
think
you're
we
saying,
should
okay.
announce the opening of nominations for awards during Preservation Month and hold
push it
something
back.
later.
It's probably a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're
all
not
right,
going to
that's
be
fine.
able to do it
Because I was
here.
like, wait a minute, I think we vote. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if it was just a recommendation or like, it's like,
So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
there are a number of things that
Okay.
are kind of tied together.
yeah, okay.
And right now, I do not have any sign applications either, and that deadline's March 1.
Right. Well, maybe it's better to concentrate on one thing at a time. Maybe we'll get some feedback from the class People will nominate, sort of where I'm going,
Possibly.
yeah. Create interest in,
They are going to get a signed brochure in their packets, since we have one this time. So y'all can look at your calendars, and you can let me know, or let me know at the next meeting, or we'll assign you a date to come and help. We'll be meeting down at the Loeb Center at Old Alabama Town. We do plan on doing this in person. They've got enough space to get everyone spread out. The last two will be outside, and part of architectural survey will be outside as well. So if you get bored sitting and listening to people talk, one of those might be a better option for you.
I don't think anybody got bored last time.
Okay, any questions, comments? Anyone like to raise?
I will say that one of our sponsors this time is PPG Paint, and their Home Depot rep helped us get our color palette into Home Depot, which I was not able to do. I went to the big box with my paint board, and they said no. But they've done it, so they're going to provide a good copy of the palette. So it's in kind for this one, but they are interested in possibly, or they are interested in sponsoring a hands-on workshop on painting and proper preparation of surfaces, you know, and talking about what causes paint failure and that sort of thing, and giving away paint and all that good stuff. So they've got someone who can talk about that, and we've talked about doing something down at Old Alabama Town again that's more hands-on with regards to a specific component of doing preservation. So.
Okay. Anything else? All right. 2021 awards, Christy.
Well, as I was saying, we are not going to be able to have a function in this auditorium in May. I just don't see that being feasible. So I would suggest that we might want to open nominations during Preservation Month and set a date late summer for an awards program.
Okay.
And I will adjust the application form accordingly, but we're not supposed to have any more than 20 people in here right now, and last time when we did it, we planned for 75. Yeah, so that's it. I don't think it would be a very effective program if we have to cycle people through the auditorium that they can't sit and participate in the whole thing. So that's my suggestion for how we handle that.
Okay.
Okay, good enough.
Probably a good idea. Christy, what about the signs? The next give out, historic signs are deadlines, what, March 1?
March 1.
Okay, so do you still see that happening in May?
Those would be handed out in June.
Okay. March 1 in June, okay. Because we can push that instead, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Christy. Other business, bylaws, revised copy attached. Please review and prepare comments. Christy, as we embark on this, let me just ask this general question. Is there any style manual that we use in compiling these bylaws as far as the grammar and writing style? Was any style manual that we use in particular?
These bylaws were adopted before I arrived on the scene,
Yeah.
so I just modified.
I got that feeling.
Yeah, I don't know how they were created.
Right. Usually when I'm correcting grammar, the first question I ask myself, which style manual was used? And then I go from there. So let's take a peep at these bylaws and see what do we need to keep and what do we need to modify, and what do we need to just completely do away with. So what we're going to do is start from the very top, Article 1, objectives. First sentence, or first paragraph rather. Who has a question or comment, or some change we need to make to the first paragraph? Anybody? Dr. Hansberry, you need another copy. You need a copy.
I can look at Carol's.
Oh, okay. All right. Good enough. All right. Okay, in the first paragraph, the only concern I have is with capitalization. And if nobody else has a concern about that, we can just move on. But I just noticed that we have a lot of common nouns that we've capitalized. But if that's the style, Christy, that we are using, we can,
Such as,
for example, in the very first sentence, there's no, I really don't know what this is, but historic commission is not capitalized standing alone. It's a common noun. And in the
well,
third,
it's in the first sentence?
Yes.
That's the Historic Preservation Commission.
okay, well that will make it okay to capitalize.
Because the only change there is that the bylaw is still
Sure.
referred to this
That's
body as
fine.
the Historic Development Commission.
That's fine. And then in the third sentence, legislature, on the far left and on the far right, act. In the next sentence, city council is not capitalized standing alone. In the next sentence, historic ordinance is not capitalized standing alone.
Well,
Those
I
only-
think legislature is attached to Alabama legislature, which makes it a proper
Okay,
name.
gotcha. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, right. That's okay.
And the act is referring back to Act number 142, so it's an abbreviated reference to an official name.
That's what I'm saying. Depending on the style manual,
I don't know what the style manual was, but
You're right.
I would assume that they are capitalized because they are
Sure. Does
parts of
anybody-
proper names.
Sure. Does anybody has no heartburns about anything that I just said? If not, we can move on. All right. Second paragraph. Any concern about the second paragraph? No. One of the things I did in terms of making it read more direct, the purpose of the commission, I just said this commission shall promote. Anybody has a problem with that? Instead of saying the purpose of the commission is to promote, I just said the commission shall promote and kept going.
I think this may be pulled directly from the city code
Okay.
under the purposes of the
Right.
commission.
Fine. Okay.
Addressing.
All right. Anything else in that second paragraph that we need to change, modify, which is changing? So we can leave the second paragraph as written. Okay? Article 2, officers, members, and their duties. Anything that needs changing there?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I didn't know we would be offering commentary on this tonight, but when I read it earlier, having served on this group for, it seems like several years now, I can't even remember, 3, 4, I don't know, probably 3 years. It's always been a problem having a quorum. And I thought of a rewrite that might help this just a little bit, and I was going to draft something before our next meeting, and I wanted to try to get it to where that it would be a majority of the members in office that had actually been appointed, but not to try to get it one person lower. Like say you've only got 7 people or 6 people, like, you know, we've only got 6 people now, right? And I wanted to try to word it, and and being a lawyer, I'm pretty good at drafting these things. All right, if I may say so myself. To get it to where 4 people could act if there were only 6 or if there were only 7 people, and that's still a majority of the people. But you obviously don't want to have it really low. But there are times when 1 person is all it takes to prevent this body from conducting business. And most of the time, the business this group has to pursue is not anything controversial, but it's an issue when you can't have a binding vote to even adopt your minutes for, long periods of time. So I wanted to try to probably work with Christie and get something we could have in front of us as an option to get it to where we might have a better chances of having a quorum.
We need to see if it's stipulated in the city code.
Okay.
Because that's what constitutes a quorum for all of our quasi-judicial boards, is that a quorum is the majority of the positions available, whether they're filled or not.
It was a
I'm
thought.
looking through the state enabling legislation. I didn't bring the city code to see if it speaks to it. Rules of procedure. Oh, the rules of procedure and bylaws of the commission shall specify what number of members of the commission constitutes a quorum. That said, we found, looking this afternoon, that while the state law says meetings of the commission shall be public and shall be held at times and places and pursuant to such notices specified in the ordinance creating the commission, city code says that the commission shall meet at least once a month. So it got more specific. So I need to see if it does the same with what constitutes a quorum.
Yeah. Anyone else has a point you want to raise on this issue? Commissioner Mann, you read my mind, basically everything you had to say. And one of the questions that I want to ask our other commissioners here this afternoon, when I hear that we don't have a quorum, let me just ask everybody, does the time 5:30 bother anybody? In terms of somebody saying, I can't come, is it a result of the time being 5:30 instead of, say, 5 o'clock? In other words, I'm asking, does 5 o'clock enable everybody to get here who sometime might not come? For example, last month, was time?
No, it was because I thought I had coronavirus.
No, it was COVID.
But I
last
didn't,
time.
so don't worry.
In other words, we're trying to accommodate people.
Well, I think 5:30 is ideal. I mean, at least gives me a chance to get off of work and come down here.
Right, so 5:30 works for you better.
It was 5:15 until this was amended. It was 5:15 when I started.
It was 5 before that, when I started.
And
Okay.
I know we had an issue with ARB. We couldn't get our board there at 5 o'clock.
Okay, so everybody's good with 5:30? Everybody's good with 5:30?
I have no
So
problem.
5:30 is not an issue? Okay, good enough, all right. And Christie, what we're saying with this is we can't make any fundamental changes because this is embedded in the city code.
Some of it is.
Some of it
I
is.
don't know about the quorum. I'm trying to see if I can bring Unicode up.
This may be something we need to look into.
But I know we have other things that need to be amended in the code to bring us in line with the state law if this CLG thing ever moves forward. And there's no reason we couldn't recommend some of these other changes at the same time. I mean, so it's part of a big package instead of one tweak here and one tweak there. So if there are things that we need to change, like meeting every quarter instead of once a month if we don't have enough business, because that was a concern expressed on, can we address that in the bylaws? If we don't have business, do we have to meet? No, not really, but it says that we shall meet at least once a month. So if that's something that you want to be able to control through the bylaws, depending on what's happening in any given year, then maybe we need to ask for that to be amended as well. So we're kind of at a point where we need to decide what y'all want to do and how much time you think you need to do it, too.
Comment.
Christie, if I may, these changes that are in the red here, my read of this is these changes just reflect the current state of affairs. Am I right? There's nothing there are no substantive changes of what we do at this moment, are there?
There are.
Okay, could you, Mr. Chairman, if I don't want to be out of line, but may I ask Christie what the substantive changes are here?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Under Article 3 meetings, there's a new subsection on committees, since committees are not addressed. And this is just something I made up, so, feel free to suggest edits or additions or deletions. Under Article 4, procedures, I added a provision for objection to designation, because that is currently written in our city code, but it is not, which is the thing we need to remove from the city code, because it's not in line with the state law, which consent is not a designation criteria. Whether or not it's historically significant for a person, architecturally significant, or archaeologically significant are criteria for designation. Consent is not. So we cannot designate by consent. So this puts a procedure in place to evaluate objections to designations if we had, say, a neighborhood survey come through and it's being recommended that there's a process to address those. And of course, City Council can always turn it down, because it's really to remove the politics from this decision and let City Council handle the politics of that decision. Either a nomination meets criteria or it doesn't. And because Joe Smith doesn't want to be in a historic district is not one of the criteria on which we base that decision. So that procedure has been added.
So this takes what used to be 60, and before that was 75%
right.
of
we have to take that out of our
off
code
the table. That's
to
great.
become a certified local government.
That would be very popular.
Yes, it would be. But one of the things that Mary Shell mentioned before she retired was that other HPCs have handled that through their bylaws, and 50% plus one is what Birmingham has done. That the burden the burden is on the dissenters and not the
Promoters.
the other people. I can't
Yeah,
think
the
of the
other
word.
people, yeah.
And then the other thing that I added in this section is we didn't have a process for undesignating. We've done a couple of undesignations by just running that process in reverse, that a property or district no longer meets the criteria that got it designated in the first place, and then have a hearing and make their recommendation to council and they undesignate it. So we did not have that anywhere in writing. So that process was added to the bylaws as well. What goes forward can go backwards. And I copied Mobile, I think, on that one. I looked at Mobile's bylaws.
Yeah. Well, I think the consent piece, the 50% plus one, could really help move more designations and protection, design review protection forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, and I tried to explain to the folks in the mayor's office, it's not like this means that we have a magic wand to just go out and start designating things, because there's still a process. We have to have a survey, and the survey has to meet certain criteria, and it has to be evaluated, and it's not like we're just going to start anointing things as historic properties without people's consent and with no public involvement in the process. And it may be that we end up wanting to, if the code changes are made, we might even need to add a provision of, do we have more than one public hearing on a prospective designation as well? Or hold meetings in the community. You know, maybe it's a regular meeting and a community meeting within the affected neighborhood or whatever. But just things to think about in that process, since we've got to remove it from our code. It can't be there. But we've got to figure out how it's going to be handled.
Okay.
So those are the substantive changes. Everything else is just kind of corrections and updates of, you know, posting on the website and not the bulletin board and that sort of thing.
All right. Thank you, Christy. Let's go back and make sure we're not overlooking anything or denying anyone an opportunity to voice an opinion. Let's go back to Article 2, officers, members, and their duties. Does anyone have a problem with that paragraph? Anyone has a problem with that paragraph? Officers, members, and their duties. Okay. The chairman. Any modification or whatever we need to make regarding the duties of the chairman? The vice chairman. Executive secretary. Tenure. Any issue with tenure? All officers shall serve for 1 year and may succeed themselves in office. Any issue there? Attendance. Now, Christy, even if we wanted to change that 50%, we couldn't change that 50%. Am I correct?
On attendance?
Under attendance.
No, I think you can. I don't think that's
We did it before.
stipulated. If you wanted to change it, I don't think there's anything that says you. Well, I mean, what would you want to change it to?
And I'm just asking, making sure this is just not part of the city code or anything.
I don't believe so.
Okay, all right.
It's not something that I remember.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, wait.
And any change to tenure? Anyone has any heartburns about tenure or attendance? All right. Expenditures. Any concern there? Article 3, meetings, regular meetings.
Dr. Bailey, if I may,
Surely.
It appears that our code just says that the commission shall adopt rules of procedures and bylaws to govern its operations and shall communicate those rules and procedure and bylaws to the mayor and city council. The rules of procedure and bylaws of the commission shall specify what number of members constitutes a quorum. So it does appear that can be adjusted through the bylaws.
Okay,
Just for reference of
all right.
things we might want to tweak.
Anyone has a comment? Okay, thank you. Article 3, meetings, regular meetings. Any changes needs to be made there, all right? Quorum. Any changes needs to be made there?
I would say that probably the reason for that, and this is just a guess, is that on those occasions where you have a petition for historic designation, you don't want 3 people making that decision. You know, or two of 3 vote in favor for something, that you don't want it to fall on so few people, because that is something that imposes regulations on people.
Okay.
Moving forward. So I understand kind of the frustration of not having a full commission right now, and that means that you all have to be good and come, or we don't have a meeting. But I think that might be a little tricky if these other changes come to pass and we do start seeing more designations. It may carry more weight if something goes forward to council with, 6 voting in favor, especially if there's opposition to something, versus having 2 people out of the 3 who showed up voting in favor and it going to council. So
Right.
I just want to throw that out there.
Okay. Comment. Anyone has a comment? Okay. Special meetings. Any change needs to be made there? Committees. Annual meetings. Annual meetings. Public record. Voting. Meeting procedures. Disqualified. Carryovers. Article 4, procedures, purpose. Items for consideration. Deadline. Public notification. Chris, have we ever had a concern regarding public notification?
I don't believe so. I mean, we run legal notices for all of our meetings. And there are other provisions that we have to follow if there is a designation about notifying owner by mail.
Okay.
Or property owner of record, I think is how it's
All right.
stated.
Okay. Representation. Review and render. Notification again. Article 5, direct meeting notification, policy. Public registry.
Christie, should that be changed to?
Probably because of how it's
reflect
handled.
The e-notifications online?
Yeah, the public registry, it's a centralized system now where you can go in and check the boxes of which board agendas you want to get. So we probably need to fix that to reflect how that system works, because they don't they don't come through us.
Okay.
They need to go do that online themselves.
All right. Removal of name. Here again, Christy, have we ever had a concern about removing someone's name or anything?
Well, that would take care of that, we wouldn't.
Yeah, we wouldn't need that, would we?
Okay,
No.
all right. Notice failure and alternative methods of notification. Any changes needs to be made there?
Yes.
Article 6, general rules, general authority. Any change there? Amendment. Public record.
Let me make a comment about this section, and I go back and forth on this issue, so I'm not sure how I feel about it currently. We make no reference to what constitutes a legal action of the commission. That is, we act by motion or by resolutions. with a majority where a quorum is present. We don't have any language like that in there, which sometimes come into play when you have applications that go into courts and that kind of stuff. And many organizations don't, but those that act as a judicial function, which we sort of have, do have some language like that in their bylaws. So I don't know how I feel about it. I just raised that issue, that maybe we want to consider it.
It's a good one. Christie?
I was looking to see if the code was specific enough that it didn't need to be part of bylaws, but it just talks about having hearings and making recommendations on recommendation of the commission. It doesn't say, you know, by a majority vote. Although, you know, would you see that being a separate provision, or is that something that we need to address under voting? An affirmative vote of the majority is required to take any action on requests before the board. In the absence of any provision that rules to the contrary, the rules of procedure provided by Robert's Rules of Order shall prevail. Is that something that should be amended?
Yeah, I mean, Roberts talks about motions, doesn't specifically mention resolutions. Like I say, I go back and forth about mentioning it, but it would make it clear that an official act is when we have voted by motion of a majority or by resolution, except as otherwise authorized, because, Mr. Chairman, you can appoint a committee without a motion or without a resolution, because that's already in here.
Okay, all right. I like what you're saying. I appreciate your insight. Let me do this. For our next meeting, could you draft a statement that...
I'll try to send something to her.
You did?
I will.
Oh, okay.
I will send
Okay.
something to you.
Okay. I like where you're going with that, because you're feeling a void, if you get where I'm going with that.
Yes.
Okay, so let's deal with that at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, really appreciate that. All right. Public record, we deal with that? Okay. And Article 6, adoption of bylaws.
That should be 7.
Yeah.
Krista, do we need to wait for what Commissioner Long will bring to us next week before we adopt these bylaws?
Yes.
We do? Okay. All right, so Commissioner Long, we'll wait to hear from you next week. And here again, thank you so much. We appreciate that kind of insight.
Well, and Brian, do you want to draft something regarding the quorum issue? I mean, that affects voting as well, although we may want to, I don't know.
I'll take a go at it.
Thank you so much, both of you. Annual plan. What do we want to accomplish this year?
Survive the pandemic.
That's true. That's the sooner the better. Okay? So, Chris, do you have anything you want to say regarding our annual plan?
Well, I mean, it's up to y'all if you want to have one. Although I think maybe sorting through some of these code and bylaw issues is probably a good thing. And I would ask you to think about one thing that's not addressed in the bylaws is frequency of meetings. It's been suggested that there needs to be something in writing that says if we don't have business, we won't meet. And that gets back to our the proposed ordinance or proposed code changes we need to make, do you want to have greater flexibility in how frequently you meet? Do we need to see about amending that as well as those changes move forward? So that's a question for y'all.
Okay, all right. But I would like to make one observation, is that I'm just so happy that some people are still sticking with us despite this pandemic. And I'm really serious about that, because the pandemic is nothing to play with. I think everybody here knows that. So let's applaud each other for sticking with this commission in spite of everything that's going on. So we don't want to try to minimize the pandemic. And whatever we accomplish this year, we'll just applaud ourselves for having done that. Is there anything else?
Christy, if I may ask her a question, do you think you could get us a copy of the municipal code that empowers the?
I've got it in a PDF. I have it. Yeah, chapter 15.
I'm sure it's something I could find online if I went and looked, but.
I've got it as a PDF, and Article 2 and 3 cover the HPC in composition and process. I can email that tomorrow.
Okay.
It's something that everyone who's taken our preservation leadership class has gotten in their packet. So a couple of you have it.
I just want the T-shirt, that's all. And I lost my T-shirt from last year. Stepchild ended up grabbing the T-shirt, and I haven't seen it again. Must be pretty popular with the 18-year-old.
I just about to say, it means it has value.
Crowd, 18-year-old.
I love that. I wear it all the time.
Well, anyway, anybody has anything going on you'd like to bring to the attention of this body? We have one guest with us tonight, and we appreciate your patience with us, and if you'll come to the microphone and identify yourself and tell us what's going on.
I'm Cruz Reeves. I would like to give my opinion on that quorum. The city has a lot of different boards, and all of them are important, and they vote on items that are some are more important than others. And I sit on the planning commission. I've been on the planning commission for several years. And I would hate for 2 or 3 people to decide the rezoning of a property. And I know what y'all decide here won't affect the planning commission, but it does set a precedence. And but I would hate for 2 or 3 people to decide somebody's property being rezoned. So I personally think the five votes is important.
If I may interject, I just, as I was writing down notes to myself to address the quorum issue, I had a totally different thought that might address the situation better, but I'm going to do a little homework on it. In my mind, have you ever heard of such a thing as a self-perpetuating board? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Well, in my mind, if the city council fails to act for a year and fill a position,
At least.
there might ought to be a way for this board to fill the vacancy on a temporary basis till the council acts. And anyway, I was just trying to think of some other alternatives. You are correct. Lowering the threshold on something as significant as the planning commission and the the board of adjustment, sure, that could lead to a lot of trouble. Some people may try to create a smaller group so that it could rule. Politics might come in, but I doubt we don't have a whole lot of politics going on right here about whose house gets designated and what color the door is going to be. So.
Oh, You
Oh.
will.
Well, okay,
You will
some
if the
politics.
neighborhood comes up, I guarantee.
wouldn't
You will
shortchange
see
We
some
got one coming?
fireworks that you haven't seen in a long time.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much, sir. Any
And
other?
and it could be that part of your bylaws say that you need to have X number of board members present to conduct a meeting, but if you're voting on something like historic designation, I mean, passing a resolution to ask council to say, yay, May's Historic Preservation Month, doesn't matter if three or four
That's a
of you are
good
here.
suggestion, varying
No, it
quorums
doesn't.
for
But-
different acts.
But but there are certain, those legally binding activities, you know, where you're making a recommendation that is going to affect property owners and what they can do with their property, I think really needs to have a stronger presence. And if we don't have a quorum to conduct that hearing, it just needs to be postponed until we do.
Okay. Anybody got anything going on you would like to bring to the attention of this commission? All right. There being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned.